Pascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild, Haitian in the building, so original. Got the haters catching feelings. Get your hands up to the ceiling and keep them held high. Cause St. Louis isn't ready. Forget about it, goodbye. Hold up, we just saying hi. Five somebody, rise up. Weekdays, catch us live. Somebody, let's go.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to everybody, and welcome to the Pascal Show. I hope you guys are all doing well out there, enjoying your day, making it wonderful. Man, it's been a very interesting day. It's been kind of a non-news start of the week. You know what I'm saying? There's been a lot of crazy stuff going on. Little small stories, you know, here and there. But this one, I was sitting and waiting for the longest time for this all day today because I wanted to do a live with you guys, but I wanted to see it. I wanted to hear the verdict, or hear the verdict, you know, the decision, I guess, with my own two ears before we actually jumped on and talked about this live. And there's a lot to break down. Long story short. So good evening. Good morning, good afternoon to all y'all who are watching all over the globe, all corners of the world, because I know this is a story I myself have been covering quite a bit, and I know a lot of other people have been talking about it as well. We got a short one for you guys today. We're on here for a good time, but not for a long time, unfortunately. So we got to jump into this thing. So do me a favor. You know the procedure, but I'm going to say it anyway. Hit that like button down below. Crush it. Make it scream out your name. And do not forget to hit that subscribe button. That would really be appreciated. And it'd be great to have you a part of the Pascal Show family. We got to jump into this very quickly because I got somebody very special coming onto the show very shortly here. And let me tell you, he is here for a good time, but not for a long time too. So we're going to be bringing on my brother here very, very soon. But here it is, guys. The breaking news, or the news that is kind of percolating out here in these streets right now, is that Ghislaine Maxwell, or I like to call her GM, has been sentenced to 20 years in prison. But I got a title here. I got a little article here that I thought would be very interesting. But before we go into all that, I wanted to bring on, you may have seen him on Popcorn Planet. He is their go-to Esquire, if you will. Please welcome my brother, Christopher Melcher, to the show. Hello, how you doing, man?
Great, Pascal. I mean, I'm just so happy you were able to, allow me to guest on the show. I'm just a big fan of your show, and we met on Popcorn Planet, and this is a great story to be talking about.
Yes, and I want to say this first. I do appreciate you hopping on, and I know you're not on here. You're not going to be able to be on for a long time, but I know that I got a lot of questions. There's so much to spit out here. And I appreciate you coming on and blessing us with your time. I'm honored to have you on here because, you know, I'm a big fan of Andy Signor and the rest of the team, including you, of course, over there at Popcorn Planet. So it's always a blessing that our powers are combining and becoming, some Captain Planet over here. So it's really, really cool. But let's get into this, shall we? Now, the thing is that I'm going to show this article really, really quick. It says it right here, guys. Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, if you guys don't know, if you're not fully aware about GM and JE, I'm going to be saying GM and JE from this point on because, unfortunately, the powers that be do not like us saying their names. But JE and GM were in cahoots dealing with a lot of this word right here, right over here. I'm just going to highlight it because I can't really say that. I call it rush houring, for lack of a better term, okay? They were involved with a lot of very salacious and horrendous things that they did to a lot of young women. And now, obviously, a few months ago, she was found guilty on multiple counts of that word or that phrase that I just said to you guys. And there was a sentencing that happened today where some of the victims and survivors came up and they testified, or they gave their own, they spoke and said countless heartbreaking stories about what happened to them from GM and JE. So now we have them, the judge decided to give GM 20 years in prison. But what's interesting is this title right here. So GM 60 is sentenced to 20 years in low security, quote unquote, club fed Danbury prison for STing and abusing girls with lover J.E. Judge slams heinous and predatory behavior that saw her prey on girls aged at just 14 years old. Now, we already know this is somebody who is a terrible human being. But the main question I have here is, and that's really like jostling my brain and it's kind of just bothering me more than anything in the world is this fully justice served? Is justice served? Is 20 years enough, especially being at what they're saying is a low security club fed type of spot, like as if she's going to like summer camp or something? So this is the reason why we're bringing on my good friend Chris to the show to talk about this. Now, I got to ask you personally, I mean, do you think this is fully justice served, or where do you stand on this so far?
Well, I don't. I mean, I understand how the judge got there, so I have no criticism for the judge. Okay. And we can get into that. But basically, the thing that bothers me is that these events happened between 1994 and 2004. So we're talking 26 years ago is when the first charged event occurred. And she's just now, or at least in the last 2 years, facing consequences for that. She lived a privileged lifestyle for 26 years, escaped any consequence at all during those years. So to me, that's important. These victims didn't have that luxury. They live with it every day. And here GM was out there without any restrictions, without any consequence for 26 years, and now says, well, hey, I'm 60 years old, have some mercy on me. So I think that I could have seen the sentence going higher because of that fact. And also because she hasn't taken any responsibility. Even she did address the court today, which was surprised because she has this appeal that she's going to bring. And usually you would keep quiet, but she addressed the court and basically just said, I'm sorry to all of these people who were hurt by J.E. Mm-hmm. So she has taken no responsibility.
She's taking zero accountability for anything that transpired on many of these girls. I mean, let's just bring this article back up just for a second. And these are just some of the bullets. Okay. So prosecutors asked Judge Allison Nathan to impose a sentence of at least 30 years because of Maxwell's utter lack of remorse. She, like you just said, taking no accountability. There are, while Maxwell claimed she should have served for just 4 years, as she is not a danger to the public, which still blows my mind. You had other victims like Annie Farmer, Sarah Ransom, Elizabeth Stein, and one other woman known only as Kate, read their heartbreaking victim impact statements where they pleaded for the longest possible sentence. Now, some of them have even talked about how they were used as a sex toy with a heartbeat and soul, used to entertain J.E., GM, and others. Another one, Elizabeth Stein, revealed that she had to go get an abortion because she was AR'd countless times. Now, for me, I just wonder, like, as a judge, and you're hearing these women, these survivors, these victims of J.E. and J.M., why wouldn't Judge Nathan say, you know what, let's tack on another 10,
They could have. The prosecutor were asking for at least 30 years. I think that the maximum could have been 55 years. This lady is so she's 60 years old. Right. So there's obviously, at some point it becomes a life sentence. The court received a report from the probation department recommending 20 years. So, she followed what the probation department said. They would look at the lack of any prior criminal convictions that GM had, her age, and, hey, that's just kind of what happens. Now, 20 years, unfortunately, also doesn't mean 20 years. It's a sentence of 20 years minus the 2 years that she's already served in custody. So there's 18.
So it's
And
18.
then she gets credit for good behavior if she, doesn't violate prison rules.
Right.
It's about 54 days per year, is a basic good time credit in federal. So it's about 2 months per year. So 18 months, 18 years times 2 is 36 months. So that's 3 years off. So we're looking at 15 years. So she'd be 75 when she gets out.
And of course, I mean, if she's staying in a place that's low security, not some of the dangerous places, some of the dangerous prisons in the country or anything, I'm sure she's going to do just fine. And within those 15 some odd years, she's going to be able to walk out free. Not sitting here saying that she's going to have a great life as soon as she walks out, because obviously she is a pariah now, right? But at the same time, that's still 15 years of her being able to see freedom, to be able to be free. I don't know. I was expecting a much harsher sentence. In my personal opinion, I was expecting something much worse. For the countless women that have stepped forward and said what they said, it is something that is it's heartbreaking to hear these women speak out, say what happened to them, and still this woman can walk out in 15 years after on good behavior. I don't know. It's not enough for me. It's not enough for me at all. But go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, and I was able to buy a couple minutes here so we could talk a little bit longer. And this is the problem basically in all in all criminal sentencing. At some point the judge is going to listen to all these arguments and not just put somebody in prison for the rest of their life. So we are seeing some balancing there. The judge has that authority. So, hey, they exercised it. What I'm more concerned about is the appeal, because if you recall, we had juror number 50 who, through jury selection, was asked in a questionnaire if this potential juror had experienced anything similar in his life than the things that were, going to be heard on this trial. And he said no. And then after the guilty verdict, he did an interview, which is very odd to do an interview so quickly, where he says, I had experienced something similar, which in itself is not disqualifying. But he went on to say that he had shared that experience with the jurors and it was impactful for them, basically saying, hey, I went through something similar. I understand why maybe these witnesses wouldn't recall things exactly the same. That's just the way it works post-trauma. And here that's evidence that's outside the record. I mean, that was not allowed. He can't come in there and just share his personal experiences like that. And the judge said, hey, it was a mistake. It wasn't intentional. And the judge doesn't believe that the jurors were influenced by these statements. That's what the judge says. But GM is definitely going to appeal on that. And it could be a decent ground for getting the whole thing tossed. We're seeing that in Scott Peterson. There's a hearing tomorrow. Scott Peterson, juror misconduct, very similar allegation in that case all these years later. So that's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, it is very interesting that there could be just as simple as somebody speaking up or saying something like what is, this is my own personal experience. A juror can just sway or throw off the possibility of all this hard work, right? All this groundwork, all this time. And that's really wild to me. But, real quick, can we talk about this? I'm sure she and her team, GM and her team are probably planning on doing some sort of appeal, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. They have to wait till the sentence. And then, so it's the guilty verdict by the jury, which we have. And now the sentence by the judge, put those together becomes a judgment. And then they appeal from that document. Wow.
And could there be a possibility of an appeal just because of this juror, or
yeah, she's kind of vowed to do that, and it is I don't know that she'll succeed, but that's her best ground that I've heard. And like I said, I don't know if that'll in Scott Peterson, we're going to see, eventually whether he's successful in a very similar claim. But that's what she's going to say. The judge did make findings to try and say, hey, this had no impact on the trial. And certainly we all come with personal experiences and we can share those to some extent if we're serving on a jury. But what would have happened, though, if this juror number 50 would have been honest about his background, he would have been admonished. The judge would have said, hey, if you're going to share anything, you got to be very careful. You got to put aside your own personal experiences. They would have gotten into a much greater detail with that juror to make sure that he didn't influence others, and that also his background didn't influence him. But they were deprived of that opportunity because he kept it to himself.
Right. This is going to sound so strange, but I need to check something really quick. So I don't know why my dogs are freaking out. Can you just give me like 2 seconds? I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I'll take it. I'll keep going.
Okay. Thank you. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Another thing is this list of all these other people who were involved with this pair. And why haven't we seen that list? That's very, very surprising. Normally we would see in a plea bargain at the beginning of the case to saying, hey, I can cooperate, I can give, or my client can give information about other people, and she could become, a cooperating witness and have a reduction of charges or charges deferred as long as she continues to cooperate. We didn't see that happen. Then when you get into sentencing, there's another opportunity where maybe saying, okay, she's been convicted, there's this long prison sentence over her head, maybe she comes forth with some information and they push off the sentencing until they see what she has to deliver. Didn't see that happening. So what may be occurring is that she's basically rolled the dice a couple times, once at trial to see if she would be convicted, then again on leniency to see if the judge would really throw the book at her. And now we're seeing a sentence of, what's now another really 15 years of her life. And she may come in and try and bargain for her freedom with this information that she has. That's a possibility. But we're kind of a lot of people talking about that. Is this why there were so many other people in the sphere of these two individuals? Why haven't they come forth and given that information? And there's all kinds of speculation about it. I mean, maybe they're too powerful and they don't want that information out. But I got to think, though, there's enough people involved in this prosecution that somebody would say, hey, if there is information that's going to lead to these different roads, let's follow those roads.
Right. Of course, I just walked away, so I missed what you were covering, and I'm sure it was incredible commentary. But as far as her sentencing goes, right? And I know you mentioned this before, but I just kind of want to drill it home a little bit more. Why was she getting 20 and not getting more? It just seems to me that, like, at least in my mind, I keep going, how is this fully justice served if there's plenty of people who have come forward? Forget the juror, right? Forget that juror who, of course, spoke out saying that they were a survivor as well and a victim. There have been countless women that have stepped forward. There have been countless counts of STing, SAing, just everything under the umbrella of abuse you can think of that has been pinned towards both of them. And I get that J.E. is no longer on this planet, right? But at the same time, she was the Robin to his Batman. Why? How is this possible that she is only seeing the possibility, or it looks like 18 years, because obviously she already did 2. And if she has good behavior, she's walking out in 15. How can we say this to all the people out here that may still be victims of JE and the GM? How can we sit there and say that this is just? How is 20 years just? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and this is a problem we struggle with as lawyers, is that justice is a process more than an outcome.
Yeah,
and so in our justice system, We have a jury that determines guilt,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes says, hey, not guilty. And we're like, wow, how could that possibly be true? But that sometimes happens. And then in sentencing, it's typically the judge that determines sentencing. And there are some formulas. So sometimes there are minimum mandatory sentences where the judge has no discretion. But in these particular charges, the court had discretion. And so we like that human element in this justice equation, rather than saying, hey, we have a formula. Here's, open up some schedule. And it's like, you're convicted of this. Here's the sentence. Goodbye. We like the human element. And so this judge would have considered all this. I can't speak for her, but she would have considered the age, the lack of prior criminal history, the fact that GM was Robin and the other guy was Batman, kind of put all this into the mix. And, we got a probation department that's investigated, says recommending 20 years and says, okay, I'm going to do 20 years. So again, it's if God forbid I ever found myself, behind bars and about to be sentenced for something, I would not want the judge looking at a book. I'd want the judge looking at me. But I would hope
Good point.
I would have the courage and integrity to take responsibility, admit what I did wrong, and show understanding for the harm that it caused those people, and then get leniency. And that's the missing component here, is there was none of that.
I mean, I get it that she's 60 and, the average lifespan for people nowadays is what, late 70s. I get that, that she probably will be living her natural life behind bars and it'll be a wrap. But at the same time, knowing that she would never do this to anyone ever again, as soon as she steps out, 15 years, I mean, still it's 15 years, it's to me, I'm just like, man, to throw her under the prison. That's just me personally. Lock her up and throw away the damn key, because of just how this is. And I know that some people might look at this as a win, and I do look at this as a win. She's still going to be behind closed doors. She's still going to be behind bars so that she can never do this to another girl ever again. But still, man, it just would have been nice to see her there for literally the rest of her natural life. Let her rot in there, in my personal opinion. Now, so let's talk about this juror though, really quick. If you have a little bit more time.
You got 1 minute.
Oh, okay. So what will be the effect as far as the juror goes, that juror that spoke out and they were trying to throw this wrench into this whole machine? What could be the worst outcome of that?
Well, there'll be an appeal, and that process could take 2 years. It's a long process. And this judge, the trial judge, made findings here to try and protect the trial, to say, yeah, this juror number 50 didn't disclose, but it was unintentional. They weren't trying to lie to get on this jury. That even if it had been disclosed, that this judge said, I would not have stricken or removed this juror based on that prior conduct or a prior experience that he had, and that the judge said that this didn't impact the trial. So tried to make a whole bunch of findings there to make it difficult for the appellate court to reverse. And, like I say, it's a high profile case. I can't imagine the appellate court would want to have to retry this case, because you could look at the impact on these victims if it did it again. I mean, that's not a legal kind of justification for denying appeal, but I got to think it's going to come into play. So, I mean, hey, it's a legal argument that, lawyers make and get maybe excited about, but in the end of the day, probably not going to succeed, and she'll wind up doing this time.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that's the case, man.
Yeah.
Chris, I really do hope it's the case, because this is just ridiculous. And I mean, if this was to be the thing that just ruins everything and we have to start from ground zero all over again, that would be devastating. So fingers crossed on that for sure. Chris, thank you so much for being on here. I just wanted to say that I know you have to jump off here really, really quick, but I do want everybody to know about your Twitter. Please go follow him on Twitter with the quickness. This man is amazing. And I really do hope we get you back on the show to talk about other things, because there's so much more that's going on. The world is changing, and the world is changing pretty damn quickly. So please, guys, if you need to know some things about what's going on as far as law and all that, please go follow him. It's at _divorce. That's Christopher Melcher. Check him out. This man is very well read in the world of law. Okay. Christopher, thank you again so much for being on. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Pascal. Looking forward next time.
Always. Talk to you soon. Now, guys, real talk. You guys have got to go and follow him on his Twitter, please. The guy's fantastic. That was just the very let's just say first pancake of hopefully a bunch of pancakes, because it's really great to have other men and women that are well versed in law and know their ins and outs. Especially somebody who can esquire when we need an esquire. So I'm happy he came on to talk about all that's what's going on, because obviously there's a whole lot more stuff going on legally that we need to talk about and tap into. So bringing him on, hopefully we'll have more of that, right? Because we definitely need to talk about all the stuff that's going on in the world. And there's a lot going on. And there's things that are even, like I said, friends, family, etc., that are really concerned about, especially with what has been transpiring out here in these streets as far as what we are legally able to do and what we're legally not able to do. So there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot of people that are concerned of what else is going to be on the chopping block, if there is going to be something put on the chopping block fairly soon. There's a lot of people that I know, and a lot of people that I've seen on the social medias that are expressing their concerns that go beyond whether to or not to have a child, right? Of course, we have talked about that at great lengths, and we will continue to talk about that at great lengths. And hopefully I'll be bringing on Chris to come on and chop it up about those things as well in the very, very near future. But there it is, guys. We have Ghislaine Maxwell. She has been sentenced to 20 years. Now, prosecution tried to push for 30. It did not happen. They gave her 20. Now, I will say this. She is 60 years old. And Chris does have a point. That they probably looked at her age. They looked at the situation. They looked at that she was playing second fiddle, that she can't be put to blame for everything that Jeffrey Epstein was involved in. But at the same time, she was playing second fiddle to him. She should be held accountable to a certain extent, to an extreme extent, in my personal opinion. And I do think that 20 years is not enough. I think she should be there behind bars for as long as she lives, in my personal opinion. And also on top of that, I will say this too. I think it's ridiculous that she is staying in a low maximum prison. It's like a Club Med type of spot, like she's at a damn summer camp. Okay. She'll be able to go and play tennis and learn how to crochet. Okay. In my personal opinion, that's trash. She should be in a max prison. She should be fearing for her life every single day. She should be in the fiery pits of hell on earth. And that's my own personal opinion. Okay. But nonetheless, she's still there for 18 and possibly 15 on good behavior. 15 years behind bars. Hey, keep her there. Keep her there. Anyway, guys, that is the show today. All right. I wanted to jump on and give you guys the news on that. I was waiting for that sentencing like crazy. I was holding my breath, waiting, but then I had to run off and take care of a few things, and then the verdict came out. So I'm very happy that I was able to hop on with Chris Melcher and talk about this, because we needed to talk about this. We covered this a while back. We definitely needed to talk about it today. You knew for a fact I was not gonna not talk about it, okay? but she has been sentenced to 20 years. GM. 20 years. Locked up. Interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. And I leave that up to you guys. Obviously, I already said my 2 cents, but I leave it up to you guys. Do you think it is justice being served? Do you think that these women that have stepped forward by the names of Annie Farmer, Sarah Ransom, Elizabeth Stein, and another one that only wanted to go by the name of Kate, do you think they're happy? Do you think that justice is served for them? Do you think this satiates their appetite for justice? I leave that up to you guys. I've already said my piece. So let the comments fire off in the comment section and in the chat. I appreciate all y'all for being on, okay? Like I said, it was going to be a short one today, all right? But I wanted to bring someone on special like Chris to come on and chop it up and talk about this because this matters and we need to be aware of what's going on in our surroundings, y'all, okay? Especially what's going on in the law. Anyway, guys, it is time to get going. I appreciate all y'all. Hit that like button, crush it, okay? That would really mean a lot. Also, share this as well because there's some information in here that Chris said that was fantastic. Please share this if you can. Follow him on Twitter. Again, that is at @CA_divorce. Follow him, okay? Follow. And also, do not forget to crush that subscribe button if this is your first time checking out this channel, okay? Be great to have you part of the Pascal Show family. Anyway, it is time to get going. I got another pop-up coming up, another pop-up video coming up very, very shortly, so keep your eyes open. And I will see you guys then, all right? Much love to you guys. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. This is the Pascal Show. Bye.